Imagine you woke up tomorrow and couldn't remember anything about your past. You don't remember where you grew up. You don't remember what you've accomplished, what you've failed at, who hurt you, who loved you. You don't remember your nationality, your beliefs, your career, your relationships. You don't even remember your own name. Would you still be you? Think about that for a second. Because you would still wake up. You would still see the room around you. You would still hear sounds. You would still experience whatever was happening in that moment. But almost everything you normally use to answer the question, who am I, would be gone. So, what exactly did you lose? Did you lose yourself? Or did you lose the story you used to describe yourself? When you entered this world, you didn't know your name. You didn't know your nationality. You didn't know your religion. You didn't know your race. You didn't know whether your family was rich or poor. You didn't know whether you were supposed to be shy or confident, intelligent or stupid, successful or unsuccessful. You didn't know any of that. Then people started telling you things. This is your name. This is where you're from. This is your family. This is what we believe. This is what people like us do. And obviously, as a child, you don't question most of it. You're learning how the world works. But at the same time, you're learning who you're supposed to be within that world. Then you get a little older. Maybe a teacher says, you're really smart. And you remember that. Maybe another child says, you're weird. And you remember that too. Maybe your family constantly tells people, oh, he's shy. And eventually somebody asks you to describe yourself and you say, I'm shy. Think about what happened there. Something people repeatedly said about you eventually became something you started saying about yourself. And as you grow, life keeps adding more pieces: success, failure, friendships, heartbreak, embarrassment, achievement, rejection, things you're proud of, things you wish you could forget. Experience becomes memory, and those memories begin forming a story, the story of you. And this is where the voice in your head comes back into the picture. Because that voice isn't only talking about what's happening right now, it's constantly interpreting what's happening through what happened before. Someone doesn't respond to your message? Here we go again. You make a mistake? I always mess things up. You walk into a room full of strangers? I'm terrible at talking to people. Something good finally happens. Don't get too excited, it never lasts. But where did those sentences come from? Usually there's a history behind them. The mind remembers what happened before and uses it to explain what's happening now. And sometimes that's useful if you touched a hot stove as a child. Remembering that pain is probably a good idea. Memory helps us learn. The problem begins when we stop saying, this happened to me, and start saying, this is who I am. Those are not the same statement. Try something with me. Think of one thing you strongly believe about yourself. Anything. Maybe I'm shy. I'm confident. I'm bad at relationships. I'm terrible with money. Anything. I'm not creative. Independent. I have anger issues. Choose one. Now ask yourself a very simple question. How do I know? And don't just answer it. Watch what your mind does. It starts searching. Maybe a memory appears, then another, something somebody told you years ago, and an embarrassing moment, a failed relationship, something that happened when you were a child. Your mind starts pulling out evidence, almost like a lawyer building a case. Remember this? What about this? See? This proves it. But here's what I want you to question. Is your mind discovering who you are, or is it searching for evidence to support something you've already decided about yourself? Because once you accept an identity, the mind becomes very good at finding evidence that keeps that identity alive. And this is where the story can start controlling the person telling it. Let's say you've spent years believing, I'm shy. You walk into a room, there's someone you want to talk to, but before you move, the thought comes, I'm shy. So you don't go over. You stay quiet. You leave. And afterward, see, that's just who I am. But look at the loop. The belief influenced the behavior. And then the behavior became evidence of the belief. The story proved itself. Now imagine repeating that for 10 years. At some point, I'm shy doesn't feel like a thought anymore. It feels like a fact. And we do this with much bigger things. I'm bad with money. Relationships never work for me. I'm not disciplined. I can't speak in front of people. I'm an angry person. I always choose the wrong people. I've always been this way. And that last one is especially powerful. I've always been this way. Because the past becomes evidence that the future has to look the same. But it doesn't. Your past can't explain you without having to imprison you. And it's easy to hear all of this and think, okay, so I just need to get rid of my negative identities. But positive identities can trap you too. For example, I'm intelligent, I'm successful, I'm attractive, I'm strong, I'm a good person. Those sound harmless, but maybe even healthy until life challenges them. If your identity is, I'm intelligent, what happens when you're wrong? For some people, admitting they're wrong becomes incredibly difficult because they're not just changing an opinion anymore. Something deeper feels threatened. If your identity is, I'm successful, what happens when you fail? Now, the failure isn't simply an event. It becomes, what does this say about me? If you're the strong one, maybe asking for help feels like weakness. If you're the good person, maybe criticism becomes almost impossible to hear. If you're the successful one, maybe you keep chasing achievements you don't even want because you don't know who you'd be without them. That's when identity becomes a cage. Not because the label is negative, but because now you have something you constantly need to protect. If I met you today and asked, who are you? You'd probably give me information. Your name, where you're from, what you do, maybe your age, your interests, your relationships, your beliefs. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need identity. We need names. We need memories. We need a way to navigate the world and communicate with each other. I'm not suggesting walking into work tomorrow and tell everyone I no longer identify with my name. Please don't blame me when security comes. The point isn't to destroy your identity. The point is to see it clearly, because there's a difference between saying, "This is the story of my life," and saying, "This story is everything that I am." One is a biography, the other is an identity. And when we confuse the two, every threat to the story starts feeling like a threat to us. So let's go back to where we started. Tomorrow morning, you wake up and every autobiographical memory is gone. Your name, gone. Nationality, gone. Career, gone. Failures, gone. Accomplishments, gone. Every insult someone ever gave you, gone. Every compliment, too. The person who rejected you, you don't remember them. The mistake you still haven't forgiven yourself for, gone. The thing you're proudest of, gone too. For the first time, you have no story to tell yourself about who you are. But you open your eyes, you see, you hear, you feel, you experience this moment. Something remains. Now, I could give you an answer for what I think that something is, but I don't want you to borrow my answer, because then we've just created another belief. I'd rather leave you with the question: if your name can change, your beliefs can change, your personality can change, your body can change, your relationships can change, your entire understanding of yourself can change, and somehow you continue experiencing all of those versions, then before asking, "Who am I?" maybe there's another question worth asking first. What have I mistaken for myself? Your memories matter, your experiences matter, your story matters. It has shaped the person sitting here right now, but being shaped by your story isn't necessarily the same thing as being your story. And if you can begin to see the difference, maybe your past can become something you learn from, instead of something you have to keep becoming.